So good morning, everyone, and good beginning of the week. I wish you well for this week and how it starts. And just a little footnote or note that for those of you who are here Friday and things didn't work out just the way that they were planned for finishing up last week's series, I did give a talk on Sunday morning that can substitute for the final talk of the Dharma Samadhi series. And so if you want to, you have that option to listen to that if you didn't. And yes, on Friday we had some technological problems here at IMC so it wasn't quite working well, the sound, and so. So one of the profound statements in the Dharma is the simple statement, here you are, here I am. Because to really be here, of course we know we're here, I suppose, but to really know it, and not only to know it, but to know it in an embodied way, to be centered, really here, is an alternative for the mind, than the mind being there and then, not being here, but the mind itself thinking about other times, other places, other events, and not really in harmony with the body, which the body is always here. And one of the ways of understanding Dharma practice, meditation practice like mindfulness, is to bring the mind and body together so they're in the same place at the same time. And since the body is where it is, not an issue of bringing the body to the mind, it's really an issue of having the mind be really in the same place and time as focused, thinking about, aware of, same place as the body. Then there's a chance that these two wonderful capacities we have begin to work in harmony, begin to click and to support each other in a way that can't happen if the mind is wandering off in thought and other concerns and fantasies. So here you are in this body, in the place that you're at, unequivocally here. And here is the spot where you'll meditate for the next 30 minutes or so. And so to take a posture, to assume a posture, that's your best effort at finding a supportive posture for meditation. A supportive posture that allows you to relax deeply, and a supportive posture that allows you to be alert clearly. And so we want to find a kind of balanced posture that allows both of these to be there. Relaxation and alertness. Generally, it's good to have some intentionality in some part of your posture. Maybe you intentionally sit up a little bit straighter. Or you intentionally, if you're sitting in a chair, have both feet firmly planted on the floor. Or if you are laying down for some reason, some part of your posture has intention behind it. Could be that you have your hand, maybe both hands, pointing up towards the ceiling. Maybe your elbows are resting, but then at 90 degrees, the forearm points to the ceiling. And that intentionality can give a little bit of support for alertness, the energy needed to be alert and present. And then to gently close your eyes and to let the eyes in their sockets rest backwards, settle back. Some of our eyes work a lot, always looking and seeing. We become increasingly a visual culture with all the screen time that people do. And to let the eyes take a vacation, nothing you have to look at or see. And to soften the muscles of the face, the muscles that engage to express our emotional life and how we present ourselves to this social world. Nothing necessarily wrong with that, but it's nice to be able to soften and relax and give the social face a break. Perhaps allowing the muscles of the face to fall away from the skull, from the bones. So the muscles of the face fall into the skin and are held there softly, gently. And perhaps softening and relaxing around the forehead and temple area. And perhaps even deeper in the skull, in the area of the brain. To release any holding or tension in the brain. And then to soften the shoulders, to let them sink or release. Maybe the area around the shoulder blades as well. And then perhaps with a quiet mind, letting your thinking be quieter, to bring your attention, soft attention to your chest, and to feel whatever sensations are there as if they have permission to be there. And your job is just to feel the sensations of the chest, around the heart, diaphragm, noticing if there's any resistance or holding, tightness. And then perhaps as you exhale, to relax the chest, soften around the heart. Begin to let go of some of the holding that might be there. And also it's nice to soften the belly, even if it's just briefly before it tightens up again. To relax the belly, and if it's possible to appreciate and relax the few moments where it stays soft and open and maybe expanded. And perhaps relaxing, letting go the whole body, releasing globally whatever tension, resistance is held in the body. So the whole body begins to feel more open, or soft, maybe more like a field that glows than a solid mass. And maybe now, feeling you're here in this body. allowing the mind to release itself into the body, so that the mind's ability to be aware occurs in the body. The sensations of breathing that are experienced, that are known, where they occur. In the chest moving, the belly, the nostrils, wherever the experience of breathing occurs. Let your awareness be in those locations, sensing and feeling the sensations of breathing, as if the mind has dropped out of the control tower and settled into the body itself. That awareness is not watching from the control tower, but awareness becomes the sensations of breathing. Feeling the particular sensations that come and go, that appear and disappear. Like waves rippling across a body of water. So there's the ripple of sensations that ripple across the present moment, coming and going, here, now. Sometimes in meditation, it's enough just to know that you're here. And if you want, you could follow that by a silent opening to here. Really receive and feel. Allow the experience of here to show itself to you in such a way that the mind becomes quieter and calmer, more peaceful. Peaceful with here. So as we come to the end of this sitting, to soften, relax into your heart, gently, and appreciating however you might have changed in this course of this meditation. It doesn't have to be dramatic. Maybe your body is a little bit more settled. Maybe your mind or heart is more settled. Maybe you see more clearly what's happening here for you. Or you're a bit more patient, accepting. Many possibilities here. And then consider how whatever benefits had come from this period of meditation, how those benefits can be shared with others today. If you're a little bit more in the present moment, how could you, that ability to be present in a non-reactive way, be a support for your contact with other people, support for them? If you're a little bit calmer, what ways is it useful to bring a calm presence to others? If you're a little bit kinder, or feel more connection to your heart, how can you bring that to others? And these are just some examples, but whatever ways that you've benefited from being here today, may it be through our reflection and intentions. May it be that this practice brings welfare and happiness, well-being, benefit to others. May we learn over time that there's a direct connection between doing this practice and our ability to make this world a better place by how we treat others and how we care for things. May it be that this practice we do is for the welfare and benefit of all beings, so that all beings may be safe, so that all beings may be happy, so all beings may be free and delighted. So, for this week, we'll do 7 days of this 7 a.m. morning sitting, and go through Saturday and Sunday as well, because on this weekend, starting Thursday evening, I'm teaching a retreat, And so just fold in this 7 a.m. sitting into the retreat into this sitting. And so that there's a kind of a multi-faceted theme for this week. And so I'll introduce it this way, that the meditation practice that we do, the core of it is called insight meditation. And that's a translation of vipassana. Insight is a translation. And vipassana means to see clearly or to see with emphasis. And in the ancient texts, vipassana is not a meditation practice, but rather it's a result of meditation practice in the form of insight. As we develop and cultivate meditation, then at some point there is a revelation that happens. And I use the word revelation because we don't have the sense that we're probing or doing the analysis. We're just seeing what's there and allowing what's there to show itself in a deep way. And there are 3 insights, and those are a deep insight into impermanence or inconstancy, a deep insight into suffering, a deep insight into not self. So that's kind of the one piece of a larger process of practice. And the idea is to get there to have these deep insights. To get to those insights, meditation practice is to cultivate ourselves, to develop ourselves in meditation in such a way that we can have those insights. And so we don't do the insights just happen as we are well, stable, focused, and clear. And so how do we cultivate ourselves? Well, maybe a little bit paradoxically, we cultivate the opposite of the 3 characteristics. We cultivate stability and stillness, so that we can see impermanence and change and inconstancy really well. We cultivate happiness and well-being, as we talked about last week, so that we can have the capacity to really have deep insight, a capacity to really be able to look at suffering, be with suffering in a very deep way without it being a negative experience. And then we cultivate something that can be called in English something like self-confidence, efficacy, and this sense of strong confidence, self-confidence, that allows us to see what is called not self. So that's what we cultivate. Now, why do we cultivate these, and why we cultivate these to have the insights? And why do we cultivate the insights? We have the insights in order to bring the mind to a place, to a time where the mind has no fixations. It's not fixating on wanting something or resisting anything or fixating on desires, aversions, fixated on delusions and ideas and fears. And often the mind is fixated. It's kind of focused about something and really is stuck there or wants that or is that in ways that we don't really begin to see until we start calming and settling the mind deeper and deeper and deeper. Then at some point we'll notice that the mind keeps being preoccupied. There's a tension, a momentum, a holding pattern in the mind. And some of this is really almost below the level of thinking, and the very kind of attachment or fixation to being alive or being a self, or even things like being safe. There's or having opinions or holding on to stories. And there's nothing necessarily wrong with those things, but there's no freedom with a mind fixated. So the purpose of seeing these deep insights into inconstancy, suffering, and not self is so the mind can release its fixations. And to do that very deeply brings the mind to something that Buddhist tradition calls the 3 doors of liberation. And those 3 doors and those are the doors that lead to the mind letting go in a deep way, letting go of its deepest fixations. So liberation, awakening. And those 3 doors are the doors, and there's a little bit, I'll explain this. The doors of the signless, the door of the wishless, and the door of emptiness. So the signless is the door where we no longer fixate on any of the projections we have on reality around us. And certainly the more abstract or complicated projections we have about people and bias and prejudice and judgments we have. But also the simplest projections, even the projection on something like a door, that it's a door, or a chair, that it's a chair. In the way the chairs function in our society, it's a completely appropriate and some degree accurate idea that we apply to this piece of furniture that we call a chair. But if you brought that to people, 50,000 years ago on this planet, those people maybe wouldn't know it was a chair. They would be unsure of what it was. Maybe they thought it was a stepping stool to get up to the fruit in the tree. They wouldn't occur to them maybe that it was a chair. But we see it that way. So there's a very, very, even the simplest forms of attributing concepts to things can be a fixation. And so when the mind is no longer projecting anything, that's called the signless. And to get the mind to the point where it's relaxed and still enough, open enough, safe enough, peaceful enough, that it's not making any projections on anything at all, then something can release. And there's something about seeing inconstancy, impermanence, that we realize that the more we see things constantly changing, the more we see they don't fit. The projections don't quite work. And so the projecting mind can finally release or relax. The wishless is when we experience suffering. We see that the unsatisfactory nature, that the degree of stress or tension that's somehow inherent in so many things, even the smallest movement of the mind, surprisingly. To really see that, and see that from a place of happiness, but to really see it, then the ways in which we get fixated on the pursuit of happiness or fixated on our suffering releases. And then something very deep can let go. And then to really see something about how things are not self, the not self characteristic of phenomena. And I'll talk more about that later. But that is I think it's fair for most people understand how much fixation human beings have on themselves, on self. To start have a lot of self-confidence, to cultivate that, so that there's enough self-confidence one can begin to let go of the fixation on self. And when the mind stops that fixation, for some people that's the door they step through for a deeper liberation. And so that's liberation. So there's what we cultivate, there's what we see, and there's the doors to freedom. And then that's followed by how we live in the world. And each of these 3 doors can open to a different benefit for living in a good, wonderful way in the world. But for now, I want to say that there are these So there's 4 different kind of steps in this larger process. And that could be summarized in a little ditty, a little kind of saying. First, you be. Then you see. Next, you free. Finally, you are we. So first you be, you become someone who's stable, has sense of well-being, and confidence. First you be. Then you see. You see the 3 insights of inconstancy, suffering, and not self. Then you free. You step through the doors of liberation. The mind settles very deeply. The doors of signless, wishless, and emptiness. And then you're we. Then the solid barrier, solid walls between self and other dissolve. And the concern and care and love for the whole world becomes much more natural and part of an expression of that freedom that comes. Because how could there be freedom without that freedom opening us up to care about the world around us? So that's the kind of overarching overview of some of what will happen this week. And then I will, and some of this will happen at the retreat, and I'll arrange to have those talks also posted together with this series, so that those of you who want to have easy access to the whole thing, or some of these retreat talks will happen not during the 7 a.m. sitting, and so if you want the whole package, it'll be easily accessible for you in other ways, and I'll talk more about that later. So I hope that this is nice for you, and in these first days of this week, I will talk mostly about the 3 doors of liberation. So in a sense, we're starting with the advanced teaching as the background, as the direction we're going in practice. And then for the retreat, I'm going to talk about the cultivation, the being, what we develop, and the insights. So, someone asked a question, signless or sightless? Signless, no signs. So no projections of concepts, ideas, is what the signless is. So I look forward to continuing this theme over the next days. Thank you.